So right now we are going to take a look at introduction and significance. The uses of biometrics to identify individuals dates back to as early as 500 BC, when the Chinese used footprints to identify children. In ancient Babylon, fingerprints were used on clay tablets to identify business transactions. The ancient Egyptians used physical characteristics such as eye and eye color to distinguish individual. The modern era of biometric security began in the late of 19th century with the discovery of fingerprinting as a reliable method of identifying individuals. In 1892, Sir Francis Galton, a British anthropologist, published a book titled Fingerprints, in which he detailed the uniqueness and permanence of fingerprints. This discovery laid the foundation for the use of fingerprints as a method of identification.
Fingerprint scanners are devices that identify a person by scanning the unique patterns of ridges and valleys on their fingertips. They are commonly used in smartphones, security systems, and access control devices. But wait, what is ridges and valleys? So, ridges and valleys are the patterns that make up your fingerprint. Ridges are the raised lines on your fingertip that you can feel when you touch your finger. Valleys are the spaces or grooves between the ridges. So now, let's go through the type of fingerprint scanners in our modern world today. There are three main types of fingerprint scanners. For example, like optical scanners, ultrasonic scanners, and capacitive scanners. So let's go through one by one with me. Firstly, we have optical fingerprint scanners. This is one of the oldest and simplest types of fingerprint scanners. It works by shining a light onto the finger and taking a digital photograph of the fingerprint pattern. So how does it work? The ridges and valleys of the fingerprint reflect light differently, and the scanner captures this image and compares it with stored fingerprint data. So the advantages of optical fingerprint scanners is it is low cost, it is easy to manufacture, and it is reliable under normal conditions. But the disadvantages of optical fingerprint scanner is sometimes it can be fooled by a high quality fingerprint image, and also people can scam. People can lie your fingerprint image, and also it may affect accuracy if your finger is dirty or moist. Secondly, we have capacitive fingerprint scanners. This is commonly found in modern smartphone now. It is already built-in capacitive fingerprint scanner at mostly all smartphones we have. Doesn't matter the brand. Instead of using light, it uses tiny electronic circuits called capacitors. When a finger touches the sensor, the ridges come into direct contact with the surface, while the valley remains slightly farther away. This difference changes the electrical capacitance at different points on the sensor. The scanner uses these changes to create a detailed map of the fingerprint. So, the advantages of the capacitive fingerprint scanner is it is more secure than optical scanners, and it's also difficult to fool with a photograph, and so has high accuracy when scanning your fingerprint patterns. But the disadvantages of it that it is usually more expensive and it may not work well if your finger is very wet or dirty. So if you want to try the theory, you can try it on your phone now. Thirdly, we have the ultrasonic fingerprint scanner. So this scanner uses high frequency sound waves similar to ultrasound used in medical imaging. When a finger is placed on the sensor, the scanner sends ultrasonic waves into the skin. The waves bounce back differently from the ridges and valleys of the fingerprints. The sensor then uses these echoes to create a detailed three-dimensional image of the fingerprint. And it is very accurate and also can scan through glass and some smartphone screens. And it also works well even if the finger is slightly wet, not like the capacitive fingerprint scanner. But the thing is that it is more expensive than those two, and it is bulkier in shape and also slightly slower than capacitive scanners. Now, I'm going to explain the relevant electricity and magnetism's concept of this topic. So let's talk about how a fingerprint scanners get the power it needs to operate. Just like many electronic devices, a fingerprint scanner requires electrical energy to function. This electrical energy is supplied by a battery or an external power source. When the scanner is turned on, An electric current flows through wires and electronic components inside the device. This current carries energy to different parts of the fingerprint scanners. The electric circuit powers several important components, including the fingerprint sensor, which captures the fingerprint image, the processor, which analyzes and compares the fingerprint data, the display screen, and the locking mechanism that opens the door when access is granted. All these components work together through the flow of electricity in the circuit. Without electricity, the fingerprint scanner would not be able to detect fingerprints, process information, or unlock the door. Therefore, electric circuits play a very important role in ensuring that the fingerprint scanner functions properly and securely. Now, let's look at how a capacitive fingerprint scanners detect a fingerprint using capacitance and electric fields. Many modern fingerprint scanners use a capacitive sensor. This type of sensor works based on the principle of capacitance and electric fields. First, a capacitor is an electronic component that can store electric charge. When electric charge is stored, it creates an electric field around it. For example, when a person places their finger on the scanner, the ridges of the fingerprint, which are the raised part of the skin, come into close contact with the sensor. The valleys, which are the lower parts between the ridges, remain slightly farther away from the sensor. They affect the electric field differently. As a result, different amounts of electric charge are stored at different points on the sensor. And these small differences cause changes in capacitance, which is the ability of a capacitor to store electric charge. The capacitive sensor measures these tiny changes in capacitance across the surface of the finger. Using this information, the scanner creates a detailed map of the fingerprint pattern, showing the ridges and valleys. This fingerprint is then processed and compared with stored fingerprint records to verify the person identity. In simple terms, a capacitive fingerprint scanner detects fingerprint by measuring how the ridges and valleys of a finger affect the storage of electric charge on the sensor. Now, I'm going to explain how a fingerprint sensor works. A fingerprint sensor acts as a transducer. A transducer is a device that detects a physical quantity and converts it into an electrical signal. In this case, the physical quantity being detected is the fingerprint pattern on a person's finger. When a finger touches the sensor, the unique ridges and valleys of the fingerprint are captured and converted into electrical signals. These electrical signals are then sent to the processor. The processor analyzes the signals and compares them with the stored fingerprint data to verify the user's identity. This process demonstrates an important concept in electricity and electronics. Electrical signals allow information to be transmitted, processed, and stored efficiently by electronic devices. Therefore, the fingerprint sensor serves as the bridge between the physical fingerprint and the electronic system. And lastly, let's discuss the role of electromagnetic waves in optical fingerprint scanners. Unlike capacitive fingerprint scanners, some fingerprint scanners use light to capture fingerprint image. These are known as optical fingerprint scanners. The process begins when a light source shines onto the surface of the finger. The ridges and valleys of the fingerprint reflect the light differently because they are at different distance from the scanner. The camera inside the scanner then captures the reflected light and produces a detailed image of the fingerprint. This image is subsequently converted into electrical signals and sent to the processor for analysis and identification. The key concept involved here is electromagnetic waves. Light is a form of electromagnetic waves, and it enables the scanner to capture the fingerprint pattern accurately. Therefore, electromagnetic waves plays an essential role in optical fingerprint scanners by helping to create the fingerprint image that can be processed electronically.
So let's move forward to a few examples of real-world implementation. It is smartphone security. First, fingerprint scanners are widely used in smartphones. A good example is Apple with its Touch ID technology. Users can unlock their phones, approve payments, and access apps simply by using their fingerprints. This system works by scanning the fingerprint and comparing it with securely stored biometric data inside the phone. This implementation improves security because fingerprints are unique to each person and it is more convenient than typing password every time. Next, fingerprint scanners are commonly used in office buildings and companies. For example, many large companies such as Samsung use biometric access system for employees. Employees can scan their fingerprints at the entrance to gain access to office or research area. The system can also automatically record attendance and working hours. This may help you to improve workplace security, prevent unauthorized access, and reduce problem because of lost access cards or keys. The last one, fingerprint scanners are important in airport immigration and border control system.
For example, United States Custom and Border Protection use biometric fingerprint system to verify traveler identities. When passengers arrive, their fingerprints are scanned and matched with government database to confirm identities. This technology helps improve national security, reduce identity fraud, and speed up their immigration process.
And now it's my turn. I will explain to you guys about potential benefits and challenges for fingerprint scanner. Every person has a distinct fingerprint that unique to them. These fingerprint scanners are reliable maintained to identify verification. As a result, this can prevent unauthorized more effectively. Number 2, convenience and speed. Since biometrics are always with user, they cannot be lost or forgotten like password. This provides more convenience and seamless experience when users are accessing system. Now let's move on to potential challenges. Number 1, spoofing and security threat. Fingerprint scanner provide a high level of security in most situations. However, some systems may still be vulnerable to sophisticated attacks like counterfeit fingerprint or artificially generated fingerprint. As a result, certain fingerprint recognition systems may be tricked into granting unauthorized access. Number 2, a physical damage to finger. The effectiveness of fingerprint can be affected by physical wear or damage to a person's fingerprint. Injuries such as cuts, burns, or scar may be alter fingerprint and reduce scanning accuracy. This change can make it more difficult for system to correctly identify authorized user. That's all from me. Thank you.
So let's move forward to future development and innovation. Fingerprint scanner technology is expected to become more advanced in the future through various development and innovation that improve security, accuracy, and convenience. The first development is AI-powered fingerprint recognition. Artificial intelligence can help fingerprint scanner identify fingerprints more accurately and quickly. AI can help more a large amount of data and improve its performance over time. It can also reduce scanning error and detect fake fingerprints more effectively, make the system safer and more reliable. The second innovation is contactless fingerprint scanning. Unlike traditional fingerprint scanner, this technology does not require user to touch the device. Instead, it uses camera or advanced sensor to capture fingerprints details from a short distance. This makes the process more hygienic and convenient, especially in places where many people use the same scanner, such as hospitals, airports, and office buildings. The third development is multi-factor authentication, also known as MFA. This security method combines fingerprint verification with other forms of identifications such as facial recognition, PIN numbers, or smartphone verification. By using more than one security layer, the system becomes more harder for unauthorized users to access, providing better protection for personal and sensitive information. So, in conclusion, AI-powered recognition, contactless scanning, and multi-factor authentication are important for future development and innovation in fingerprint scanner technology. These advancements will make fingerprint system more secure, efficient, and user-friendly, helping to meet the growing demand for stronger security in everyday life.
So we are on the last slide, which is conclusion. To wrap things up, fingerprint scanning is a perfect example of an ancient history meeting modern physics. We transformed a primitive concept of using thumbprints on Babylon clay back in 500 BC into a digital shield that protects our everyday life. By moving away from physical ink, modern scanners rely entirely on the principles of electricity and magnetism. They use the natural electric conductivity of our own skin to instantly map our unique rich patterns. While no system is completely flawless, this technology successfully bridges the gap between the complex science and seamless everyday security.